She's the president and CEO of a ministry called millionkids.org. That's the website of the ministry as well. She's the outreach coordinator for the Riverside County, California Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force and the author of the book, Seduced, The Grooming of America's Teenagers. We welcome Opal Singleton back to Skywatch TV.
Thank you.
This was a surprise to me. I played video games a bit when I was younger. As I've gotten older, I know my tendency. I tend to get lost in them. Sharon can attest to that. 16 hours one day on one of my birthdays. It was, but I never have played one of these MMORPGs. What are they called? The massive
multiplayer online role-playing games.
Right.
Basically, in essence, it's a game that reaches out to literally thousands of people, and they have chat rooms. So in addition to playing the game, then you're engaging in conversation in a chat room.
Now, how could something like that, I mean, when you're engaged in trying to, destroy the enemy in World of Warcraft or Special Ops or some of the really raunchy games like, Grand Theft Auto, I mean,
Yes.
I maybe I'm getting old. I can't see how this opens an opportunity for somebody to contact and begin grooming, the process of grooming a young person.
How this happens is because they're in there playing a game. And I want to do a kind of a side trip for your audience so they can appreciate just how big an issue this is. One of the things that's happening right now is that they are forming large-scale child pornography rings. And so what will happen is, if you think of the internet like a bucket of water, the top 75% is where you and I live. We have search engines like Google and Bing and Chrome. But that bottom 25%, think of that as the dark web. That's where ISIS lives and drug cartels and money launderers, and that's where pedophiles live, child pornographers.
This is the part of the web you can't get to with your typical search engine.
That's right. It's called the Onion, the Tor router. And so what happens there is that these child pornography, these pedophiles used to kind of stay to themselves and get their dirt and do the thing they did. But now they're all connected in this dark web. They just recently found a child pornography ring that had 210,000 members. But the one that I was looking at before that had 27,000 members. And it takes a lot of material to keep these guys happy. One of the things those guys do is they scan through the regular internet, like Kik and even Snapchat and things like that. And so when a girl sends her photo off to a boy, a naked photo, they grab it and put it on a child porn ring. This is the reason why I educate kids in school. I want you to know, don't be sending that out to your boyfriend. Nobody ever said the internet was private.
Yeah.
In fact, if you ask most kids, is the internet private? No. I'm like, really? Then how come you're sending a naked photo?
You just walk around school like that.
Yeah, that's right. And they can get intercepted, so you won't realize that your photo is out on a child porn ring. But back to the gaming thing, what happens there is that they start exchanging these like baseball cards, and they're well connected. Well, so let's say that you're a 13-year-old boy and you're playing a game of Black Ops or World of Warcraft, and you're shooting it up, and this girl comes into your life and says, hey, and you start hitting it off, and you're like, wow, my lucky day, a girl who likes me, on World of Warcraft.
You're kind of an introvert geek anyway.
Yeah,
probably.
and you're going, yeah, and then she drops a photo on you, and the minute that you send one back, you're dead. And I warn this to all the kids in school because they're just shopping. You're not the first person they ask. They're looking for that easy mark, that sucker that's willing to send one back. The minute anybody, if you have young people in your audience listening, listen to this. The minute anybody ever asks you for a naked photo, they will send you one first. You don't even know if they know the person in the photo. They will imply it's them, and it's a game to get you to send one back. The minute you send one back, you're trapped. And so what happens in gaming is you send that photo back, and then it goes out on a large child porn ring, and they start to come after you. What happens in a game is you buy the game and you set up a Bitcoin account so that you are able to purchase, for instance, equipment and tattoos and whatever you want to buy for your avatar. So you create an avatar, you give it a name, and your success and failure is based on how that avatar does. So you're living vicariously, your kids are. And on top of that, score is right there all the time. If they're only a 40, nobody wants to play with them. So they got to be a 50 or 60. If they're not good enough, then they're going to use their Bitcoins to get a higher score. So then you enter into a world that's violent, and many of these are based on occult and sorcery. Many of these have animated pornography. And this is not like two people making love and with respect and caring. This literally is animated pornography. It can go from A to Z very quickly, and it does. And these kids get addicted to it quite
some
quickly.
of it's violent.
Some of it's
pornography.
violent, and you're mixing violence and sex, basically. I'll always remember Ted Bundy. He was a serial killer. Can't say that. But what was fascinating, he said, I'll always remember the day I married violence and sex. And he said, I was never the same. And that was, like a death row testimony that he gave. But we're marrying violence and sex, and then on top of it, and it's addicting sex for what it's worth, on top of it, we open the door to total strangers. You don't know who many of these people are. You have the guild and the guild manager. And what's crazy is the player needs the approval of that guild and that guild manager. And so what happens here is they literally can talk to your child and groom them and talk to them about all kinds of ideas. They talk about all kinds of things when they're playing these games. Because as you said, they often play them for hours. But what happened, and let me just share with you about Grand Theft Auto. It's an interesting thing. Grand Theft Auto has been around forever, and it's never been a beacon of morality. It's never been. You've always had sex with prostitutes. You've always killed cops, and you're not supposed to be on it if you're not 18. But I'm telling you, most of the kids in Southern California have this game, and I bet across the world. It's at 6 world records the first week, and it sold $1 billion worth in 3 days. So what happens in Grand Theft Auto this year is it has first-person experience software, so it's very vivid. And in the future, you're going to have virtual reality pornography on it. But so what happens is that you get involved, and you actually have sex with a prostitute, and then you kill her to get your money back. So I was teaching at a school or giving an assembly, and there were 450 kids, and 375 of them had it. And so I asked them, I said, did you have sex with a prostitute? Who had you're paying real money. This is not just a game.
So that's the thing. You actually have to put real money into the game in order to achieve this next.
Absolutely. It's the craziest thing. You spend $20, $50, or $70. You'll have to ask your kids what they're buying, okay? And then you have virtual sex with this girl, and then you kill her to get the money back. Well, out of 450 kids, 375 had the game, about 300 had sex with the prostitute, and about 200 had killed her. So I said to the kids, well, how many of you feel bad about it? Two out of 200. So I'm at this school. The reason I wrote my book is it was the last day of the year, and I was exhausted. I just wanted to go home and never use the word human trafficking again. And I had this kid on the front row of a high school I was training at. This is my last presentation. And he was so proud of his GTA score. He was probably 13. So I said to him, so did you do the deal? And he says, you mean the thing with the prostitute? And I said, yeah, And he said, yeah. And I said, well, how do you feel about that? He said, what do you mean? I said, wait a minute here. You just told me you paid real money to have first-person experience virtual sex with this girl, and you killed her, right? Don't you feel bad? He goes, why? It's a game. It's what you got to do to win. I went home and wrote a book. I was just flabbergasted. But then I'm at the police department where I train, and I say to these two guys, I say, did you kill the cop? Oh, yeah, we backed up twice. We got him, they say. And I go, you're in the police station. There are 2 cops behind you. And they go, yeah, it's just a game. And you see what's fascinating to me about this is that they will tell you, kids will tell you, that sex on the internet is not sex. And I'm saying, if it's not sex, how come you're so addicted to it?
And you paid real money for it.
Yeah, you're paying real money.
As a Christian, I have to say Jesus Christ would disagree with that statement.
Yes.
Well, it's a fascinating thing because they'll tell you sex is not sex and the killing is not killing. In fact, I did a survey at a large church in Southern California, and I said, so, what about sin? And they all 1/4 of the kids told me that sin on the internet is not sin. because it's not real. And that's really what got my attention. This is why I say that the line comes to me that we're laying our children on the altar of other gods. Because everybody's going, yeah, but Mom, everybody's doing it. And I'm going, yeah, that's the way it was in the Bible too. Everybody was doing it. But we need parents and grandparents to stop and realize this is real. You see, what they're telling you is that because the decisions they make on the internet have no consequences, that it's okay. But in a previous segment, I think I told you, or maybe I didn't get a chance to tell you, in the child pornography segment, they have software now that intercepts every email going out in the top 75% of the web. And they have now intercepted more. They have an algorithm that's looking for the image of a naked child or abused child. And since they started doing this, they have intercepted 158 million images of naked children around the world. But 1/4 of them, 35 million of those images, are naked selfies that our kids are sending to each other. So what they're really telling you is that they get involved and they say, well, it's okay. You know, when she sends hers, it's okay for me to send mine because the games we play have no consequences. But the minute you send that photo, the consequences get real in a hurry. And this is the reason why I want our parents to stop and think about this phenomena, because our kids are doing more and more of this online where they believe that all of this is some sort of fantasy and therefore it isn't real. And so they don't have to pay the price. But I'm going to tell you that if you're paying real money to have virtual sex, you know, we need to have that conversation. I'd like to add one more thing because I think it's interesting. If you're in a normal Christian home, if a dad saw his son out there hanging out with a prostitute, he would go, hey, son, you know, come talk with me. We don't do that, you know, about your sister respecting women. They would have that conversation. That very same dad, because he is not engaged, will walk right past that kid and go, oh, he's on that thing again, and not acknowledge that his child is engaging with a prostitute in his own home.
Yeah.
Now, here's what you do about it. Dad, set with the son. If your kid already has this game, set with him. That, you know, if your kid was playing soccer, you'd go, wouldn't you?
Sure.
But set with him and say, you know, scared the socks off of him. Show me your avatar. You know, let him know you know the
Oh,
words.
yeah.
Okay. By the way, how'd you get all those points? Show me how you're getting these points. What's that uniform he's got on? What's that tattoo you bought him? What's that stand for? Hey, I want to talk to some of the people you're talking with, you know? So let me work with you rather than to just go, no, 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 and, you know, extract them, set with them and begin to use that as a training model. You know, hey, you know I bought you that game. I know I did because I wanted you to be happy. But now that I'm starting to get educated, I want you and I to talk about who we are and what we stand for and what's honorable before God.
Yeah.
It's like the Bible tells us we need to train up our children in the way we should go, and we're allowing the internet and these games that they access through the internet to retrain them on issues of morality, sexuality, gender identity, even terrorism.
So that's
Yeah.
called exploited crimes against humanity. And if you lose track of when and where it's going to be, just check us either on Million Kids Facebook page. And that's, by the way, that's an excellent resource. We have the best Facebook girl, and she posts new cases of human trafficking about every 2 to 3 hours. That's how
Wow.
That
often.
often?
That often, yeah. If you go on Million Kids, you will see, because it's happening at an epidemic proportion. You cannot believe the world I live in and how often this is happening.
Yeah.
This is why you see me so passionate about training parents and grandparents and faith-based leadership, because we must stop this. You know, if you've ever sat with a parent who's missing their child because she ran off with her newfound love, you know, and you just know what's happening to her. And so this is all part of what we do with Million Kids, and that's where you'll see it. So.
MillionKids.org is the website of Opal Singleton and the group that she's working with to help combat human trafficking. It hits everywhere, even here in the Ozarks, a small community about 2 hours east of us. Young girl was found after being missing for more than a week in Cleveland, Ohio.